Hey everybody, welcome to this week's stream. I hope everybody's doing great today. So I'm reading some of the comments and it sounds like it's windy, snowy, kind of crazy. Last night was nuts. We've had this like blizzard go through like the Tahoe, Reno Tahoe area, and I gotta be honest, it was the wind was weird because it wasn't like it was blowing, it was just gusts, like weird kind of crazy gusts. Luckily nothing blew away. Our house was good and we didn't lose power. My brother and sister-in-law lost power there in Reno. Luckily they have a gas fireplace or something that's going, keeping them warm. So yeah, it sounds like pretty crazy weather. A lot of places, the winds are nuts, but we did get some good snow so far, and I think this storm is supposed to just kind of keep going. So hopefully everything's, like the damage isn't too bad, but hopefully we'll get some good snow because we haven't really had a whole lot of a winter this year. And my knee is kind of I've been cleared by the physical therapist to pretty much return to activities, maybe not like jump right into it, like crazy stuff, but I've been snowboarding twice. The first time was, I don't know. I think I was a little bit kind of like, I don't know how my knee's gonna do. Second time was kind of like back to normal. So I'm pretty happy about that stuff. Pretty good. I actually ran a little bit on a treadmill, which I can't stand running on treadmills, but did that at the physical therapist and things were okay. I think I'm gonna back off running a little bit. I don't think my knees like running. So that's how I injured the knee in the first place. So anyway, other than that, everything's going pretty good here. We got our 10+1 color blanks, and these things did turn out pretty wicked. Let's get the overhead going. So I don't know if everybody saw the demolding video, but these are pretty cool. And I think, like one of the things is just kind of looking at these, what we were going for was like depth. We wanted to get a lot of different kind of color variation going on. And the thing is, it's hard to see, if you just hold this blank up, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, there's like 10 colors in here and like different shades of color just by holding up the blanks. But at the same time, if you really look close, there are areas like I can see where the ocean blue, the clear blue right there. We got some purple depth in the blurple areas. Definitely see some red. And so I think once we kind of turn these down, I think there's going to be like spots where there's like little windows into the soul of the blank. But, and I think that there's going to be, I think the color variation is like, I think that if we would have just done 5 colors, and especially without the white, I don't think that we would have as much color variation. It would be a little bit more just, the blurple and then red and, like with the mica. I don't think there would be much bleed. It's not really bleeding. It's just like where the colors kind of vary. That red kind of turns into a little bit of an orange. And so I think that, it's going to be kind of subtle. But I think once we get done turning these, I think it's going to be pretty cool. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about these things. So we got, I'm going to make a junior style pen. I'm going with the Junior Retro. This is kind of one of my favorites. I like this one. It's kind of interesting. I really like the finial. It's just, I don't know. I like this one. It's a pretty cool kit. Somewhat simple. It's just kind of a simple junior, but it's got a couple little design features, especially that, I think the main feature, obviously, most of this stuff just kind of looks like a junior, but even the center band kind of has a little bit of an angle rather than just being flat. No, this is the same. So it's kind of like a slightly interesting junior gent with a pretty cool finial on top. And like I said, some kind of angles. Kind of makes it look a little bit, I can't think of the word. Whatever, I can't think of the architectural style. But anyway, so we got everything ready. What I did was, I don't think it's really going to make any difference on this blank necessarily, but if you're trying to line up everything, what I do is, I mark the blank before I cut it. So you see my kind of like Sharpie line, maybe right kind of in the middle. And then what I do is I just extend those lines over and then actually paint, put a mark on the inside of the tube. That way, if I think it's going to matter. A lot of times with just color swirl blanks, I don't know that it oftentimes really matters that much if you line everything up. But if you do have a pretty heavy like swirl pattern, a lot of times it will look better if you line the two pieces up when you're assembling the pen. A lot of times though, if it's that obvious, you can probably just line it up by eye. So either way, it's a good habit to get into on two-piece pen kits. Just so you know what the correct orientation was. Definitely a big deal with like wood. If there's grain going on, it's going to set your pen apart from somebody else that's just slapping together pens. So it'll look a little bit nicer. So let's scroll up to the top. It looks like, and just to let you guys know, I don't think that I get to see like every chat. So when I say Kim was the first one in here, that's just according to my screen. There might have been earlier ones, I'm not sure, but it looks like Kim was here first according to my thing. And then Mike and Jeff and Hugh and Sid. Nice. Let's see here. Joe did some flip cup pours. Nice. That's cool. Yeah, the flip cup. So we haven't done one of those for a while, and I'm on the fence. I don't know. But a flip cup is where you basically make it like a dirty pour. You pour everything into one cup, and then you take your mold. Let me get a cup too. So you'd have all your colors in one cup. You put your mold on top of the cup and then flip it and then pop it. Like all the colors just kind of go everywhere. It's kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe I haven't waited. Maybe if you wait long, like there may be a timing factor in those. I haven't done a lot of them, but it's kind of cool. You get some pretty cool looking like, variations in the like color patterns and everything like that. And it's one of those things where it just is what it is. There's no technique really. I mean, like I said, maybe timing and maybe how you pour your colors into the cup. You could maybe layer them more or do something like that. But it's kind of a fun one, and you never know what you're going to get every time. It's pretty cool. And we got Brian over at TBC. Let's see here. Mike, Mr. Homer Lex, how's it going? And let's see. Vinny's here. Nice. And Mark, yeah, it sounds like Mark, you're probably getting you're the next wave of these crazy wins from us, I'm guessing. And they were pretty, I don't know, I didn't look up what like the wind speed like highs on all that stuff were, but I mean, it was like just constant, like where, and like I said, not constant wind speed, constant gust, like weird gusts, just like all night long. And I was like, oh man. Neighbors were like, hauling in trash cans and moving stuff at like 11 at night. Kind of crazy. But like really, we didn't get that much snow down in the valley. Like it was like, I don't know, 4 inches maybe. So easy shoveling. And Paul, you got some wind too. Nice. Crazy, crazy stuff. And I don't know, I was looking on one of the weather maps, and I don't know if this was just kind of a weird thing, because this was like a blizzard storm. Like I said, the winds were not typical. And I was looking right over the mountains in like the kind of a little bit north of Sacramento. Looked like there was tornadoes. But that's what the map thing said. So I don't know if there was tornadoes that touched down over in California. I wouldn't doubt it. It was weird wind. And Jennifer's here in Old Man River. Yes, I am well. Hope you are too. Actually, are you over the hill? Are you in Sacramento, Jennifer? There's a Jennifer or Jen right over the hill. Is that you? Let me know. Was there any tornadoes and craziness? Like, I don't know what happened over the mountain. Kid Cooper's here. How's it going, Brian? What else? Who else we got? And Mark L. Nice. And Jim. Yeah, you're right on time. I always mess around. Roller coaster weather in Michigan too. Yeah. It's been pretty crazy. And then Gretchen's in New Orleans, and I guess it's raining there. She's supposed to be doing photo shoots and things, and see how that goes. But anyway, let's move the kit parts out of the way. And so, just one little random thought. Well, actually, before I say my random thought, so here's what's left. Now, there's going to be 5 that are taken for the subscription boxes. But I had a feeling these might be a little bit in demand. So I think I've got about 14 blanks. I made a couple more batches. It might be more than that, maybe 15 or 16. I'm not sure what I actually have. I didn't count, but I know that I have 14 for sure. So I actually have them up on the website. There's a link in the description. Now, if you are an email subscriber, hold off and wait for the discount code. There's going to be a discount code on these guys on Wednesday. So I don't think they're going to sell out before then. Oh, Jen's turn. Okay, that's right. Oh, UK. Okay. Yeah, there's so many. There's lots of Marks, lots of Jens. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's right. Jen's turn. That's right. I knew that somebody was right over the mountain from me named Jen. So anyway, here's the link if you want to grab them and don't want to wait. If you're not on the email newsletter, just head over to my website. You can just click that link, go to the website, and then I got to be honest, I don't even know where do you sign up? I think at the bottom of the page, if you scroll all the way down somewhere. Yeah, if you scroll all the way down, I should probably make that a little bit more prominent. It asks you when you check out. That's I guess where I probably capture most people. I should probably put like the email thing somewhere higher on my site. So anyway, just scroll down, and I think it's on every page of my website. Just scroll all the way down. It's in the bottom kind of right corner. If you're on a phone, it'll probably be just like the last thing on there. And so just enter your email and you'll get on the email newsletter. The email newsletters go out Wednesday mornings, Pacific time, usually around 11 a.m. But oftentimes when I have like a new blank drop, some of the things that we do on the stream, I don't discount. Like if there's like 3D prints or something going on that costs time and money to make, a lot of times I won't do that, and they're like super short supply. But with these, I could probably even make some more of these. They're not that difficult. There's a lot of moving parts, but if we run out, I might just re-up it for the next week or something like that. But anyway, that way you get the first, because I don't really post a lot of stuff like discounts and stuff on like Instagram. I usually just that's the newsletter. So if you want, information about the blanks and also reminders about the live stream replays, what we did that week, make sure to sign up for the email and you'll be first in line for discounts. It's pretty cool. So let's see here. David's here. Nice. Ads again. Oh man. I let YouTube deal with that stuff. Okay, so let's switch over to the other. Is it this one? No, that's not it. This one. Start turning these guys up. I guess it's technically one pen, but we're gonna turn up the blanks. All right, so just to make sure. Let's see here. So. I'm just double checking that I have so I want the larger on the juniors. The larger of the two small ones is going to be in the middle. This one's easy because they're both the same size. There's a slightly smaller one, and that's going to go on the end of the pen. So you want to put the slightly larger one up near where it intersects the cap. All right, so we got everything. Looks like we got everything good. I'm just to put away any questions. 12.18, 12.94. Okay, so we got everything good. I don't trust my eyes anymore. Whoa, I got a little bit out of control right there. Okay, so let's make sure we got everything set up right. Oh, I got to plug in the camera so we don't lose, so it doesn't die. Okay, we got we got power. So we shouldn't have any power issues, but like I said, this is a kind of a weird storm. So if the stream dies, we might have had a power outage. So just to let you know, if that is the case. I'm going to try using a standard cutter today. I don't know. I got one in there, and I find like the standard cutters work fine on most pens. The difference is this is going to probably cut a little bit faster. That's kind of an advantage to a standard cutter. You can kind of it's a little more aggressive, basically, and sometimes you can get it a little bit smoother, kind of like you're getting a little bit more of like a cut rather than more of like a scrape with the negative rate cutters. So there are a few advantages, but obviously the disadvantage is if you mess up, these things will catch. I've found it's almost impossible to get a catch on a negative rate cutter. So if you want to make sure that you don't get a catch, these work great obviously on resin. They're kind of made for that, or just difficult or brittle materials. If I had a lot of random stuff, mixed in with my resin, definitely pulling out a negative rake. But I think you can kind of go either way on most typical pen blanks. And so, like I said, I already had one plugged in, so let's just go for it. It's a little wobbly. I'm gonna crack open a little bit more vent on the bottom there. Let's see what we got here. All right, let's slow it down. Stop it, I should say. Woo, yeah. Now, one thing I do want to say is we used just a straight stick. So there's, when you're pouring vertically, you can do some slightly different things with it. You can like not stir it with the stick at all and just see what happens after the pour. A lot of times for most of my swirls, I use kind of this kind of bent and hooked stick. I don't know, it seems like it gives you it grabs a little bit more of the resin, gets you a little more swirl. And then on these ones, I just used a kind of a thin, a little bit thinner diameter than my standard stick. That can also change things, how thick the wire or whatever is. But we just used a straight one and just kind of swirled it up. So there's lots of different things that you can do when you're pouring vertical color swirl blanks. So these ones just use the straight stick. One other thing is I did use a black painted tube. It's one of the powder coated ones from Turner's. I really like those. They're just easy. I don't have to worry about paint. Pull it out of the package and just start going. Now, one other thing is there's probably going to be a bit of like layering going on with these things, a little bit more than normal. And so every cut might expose a little bit different kind of color or pattern. It'll be kind of cool. So you can see, I mean, this standard cutter really kind of makes quick work of your, just plain resin. Lots of interesting color variations going on. Nice, looking good. Now another way you can go is you can actually paint the inside of the blank itself instead of just the tube. The tube, the brass tube, you know. And that'll give you a little bit more background color right up against the you know, like the resin, let's say. And so for very transparent areas, that might be helpful, but it can also affect the color a little bit more. Especially on clear blanks that have like really like dead clear portions of it. Get off of me. Oh, I forgot to set my phone up. Hold on a minute. I was like, something's missing. Can't see the chat. Let's see here. Go to YouTube. Go to my channel. There we go. Ah, nice. Turner's Warehouse is in the house. Is that you, Amy? All right, so hold on real quick. Let me go back to the big computer because it was open the whole time. CJ's here. Nice. Let's see here. Not that much into multicolor. Yeah, sometimes it can get a little bit like loud, but you know, it's kind of fun. There was a question. Oh, you got the pen in the mail. Nice. It's pretty cool, huh? That's awesome. I thought there was a question. Hold on a minute. Oh, when Jim, when am I gonna get? Oh, the bundles aren't in stock. Okay, I'll. That's a tough one because I basically just moved them from like the individuals. So I have some. I just need to kind of shift inventory around. So I'll get that done after the stream. So it should be back tonight. Woodcraft had a one-day flash sale on the Stratus. Nice. Sweet. Yeah, I like that thing. I haven't talked too much about it, but I turn it on anytime I'm sanding. It just draws, you know, the dust away. And like I said, I mean, there are cheaper ones out there that you can like hang from the ceiling or whatever. But it just doesn't make sense to draw dust up, you know? So that's why I really like the design of the Stratus, and it works fine. I think that the only issue for me is my shop, number one, it's like 800 square feet, but we have 18-foot ceilings. So, and my shop isn't like sealed off from the rest of the 4,000 square feet this is my dad's shop. So I think that the Stratus would work a lot better for somebody in like a 2-car garage or whatever, just, you know, 1,000 square feet that's closed. You know, I think it would work excellent in that scenario. I gotta pull out the reading glasses. I can't see what I'm doing here. Oh man. So, did you guys know that Turner's Warehouse is having an open house end of March 23rd, I believe is what the day is. Yeah, March 23rd, Saturday. So make sure if you can get down to Arizona that you do. And I'm going to be doing some one-on-one classes. So if anybody's interested in doing a one-on-one, I believe that the one-on-ones are going to be held on Saturday. On Sunday. The demos, the free demos, the open house demos are Saturday. One-on-ones with me would be Sunday. And we can do any kind of, whatever you want, resin casting associated. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I believe, contact Amy at turnerswarehouse.com, and she will set everything up. It was about the same. Oh yeah, if you can get it the same price as the hanging system. And the nice thing is you can move it to like let's say that you were like random orbit sanding a panel or whatever. You can put it right next to the work. You're not like, oh yeah, my air cleaner's across the shop, which means that it's sucking dust across your shop. And those things work good, and as long as they can clean out everything, that's okay. But you really don't want to be pulling the dust up right in your face. Like I would recommend just leaving the shop, turn it on, and move on. The one thing that is disappointing about it is it doesn't have a timer, but that's pretty easily remedied, and I'll show you what I use. Oh god, I just dropped it. That was silly. Hopefully it still works. So anyway, I bought this thing. It just plugs in the wall. You just plug in your whatever there, and you got all these different times that you can do. 2 hours, 15 minutes, 6 hours. You can repeat it on and off. And so I don't think this costs much more than 10 bucks. So that's an easy way to, even though it doesn't have one built in, all you got to do is just buy a little timer for you can probably get them for like $5 somewhere, So that's an easy fix on that. The one thing is it's a little bit heavy to kind of drag around, but it just kind of slides around on the floor. So as long as you don't have like sticky floors, it slides fine on concrete and everything. And you can even get a carbon filter to kind of handle some smells also in the shop. It's not going to remove VOCs. Okay, so I want to make sure that you understand that it's not really actually removing toxic chemicals or anything, but it can reduce the smell associated with certain things. So that's nice. So always, if you're using, anything, like if you're doing spray lacquer, epoxy, working with resins or whatever, if there's VOCs going on, you want to be protected. Wear a real, mask. But it can kind of reduce, because there's other smells. Like let's say you burned something, you were cutting wood on the table saw or the bandsaw. A lot of times you'll get like that burnt wood smell because you're burning it. Literally, if your blade's dull or something, it'll pull that kind of stuff out, and obviously that's not really harmful. As far as I understand, not like VOC harmful. And it'll kind of help out probably with 3D printing smells. Again, my shop is so big and smells don't work exactly the same as dust. So smells tend to permeate the entire shop. So it doesn't really, if I just had my 3D printers like in a small office, something small, I'm pretty sure it would pull the smells out. Again, there's VOCs in the resin printing stuff, the resin 3D printing stuff. So it's not making the air safer necessarily. So just be aware of that. And that's kind of a little gimmick that a lot of these 3D printers try to sell you on. They're like, oh, it's got a carbon filter in it. Well, that's not necessarily removing VOCs. It's just kind of masking, like pulling the smell out. So just be aware of those types of things. Always be safe. If you're really curious about dust levels and VOC levels in your shop, I bought this thing, and there's other ones. I'm not really necessarily recommending that you go buy this one. I think there might be even better ones for reasonable prices, but this is a brand called Atmo Tube. I'm pretty sure I saw like an Instagram commercial or something ad. But this thing reads the air quality in the shop, and there's an iPhone app. Let's see if I can pull that up. Personally, I think it would be better to just have, I think they make ones that just have a display and it just tells you what's going on in your shop, Let me see if I can find, it's gonna be a little bit, get out of the way. No, that's not Atmo. Atmo Tube, there we go. And the shop probably doesn't, I've been 3D printing a lot, so my VOC levels are probably not good right now. But here's this thing's kind of in the way, sorry about that. But it tells you the air quality, so it tells you your particulate matter, like the 1, the 2.5, and the 10, and then also VOCs. It's still trying to, I wonder if this thing's dead. I'd have to charge the thing. What's going on here? I think I might have not charged. What is going on? Not seeing any. Well, okay, so this is not a very good test of this thing. It's not picking up my Atmo Tube. I think I need to charge this thing. But anyway, so you got an app, and this is the problem that I have with this is. This is why I wouldn't be like all out recommend buying this Atmo Tube thing. It was $100, and I think if you looked around, you might find something that actually has a display and does all the same stuff. But it's really kind of eye-opening when you're messing around. Even just like dust particles, like if you're cutting wood or doing whatever, or resin or on the lathe. Having one of these air quality meters in your shop that shows you all the different particulate matter and VOCs, you might be a little bit surprised because sometimes you can't smell it or whatever. Let's see here. Eventually I want to with the second floor, a loft. Yeah, that's what I would like to. Let's see here. There was a question. Did I paint the tubes? I painted the tubes. Or I just used the powder coated ones from Turner's. I think it should be fine. We'll see once I actually sand this down. Black, and they're black, by the way. So that should help it'll darken areas. Like if you went with white for the tubes, that should brighten it a little bit because the light is going to actually reflect back out at you. Whereas black is going to absorb light. So if there's transparent areas, it's going to kind of darken things. But typically black's a good go-to for most things, I find. However, I don't have, do I have any? Well, I just got my hands wet. I just dropped the what are they called? The Tequila Sunrise pen blanks. So that's one where you're going to want to go with white on those, because those are very, like the whole thing is translucent. It just uses the Alumilite fluorescent dyes, and those things really don't get opaque, you know, like totally. So, and especially like at the ends of the, you know, on a kit pen, on the ends down here, that's like kind of the thinnest part usually. Or if you just do a straight line, I mean, it's the whole thing's going to be see-through. That's another reason why I kind of put a little bit of a camber in a lot of my blanks, is it also just kind of helps give you a little bit more meat on the blank, to mask any thin areas with, you know, mica powders or whatever. But anyway, so you're going to want to go with a white, I think, on those. It'll keep the colors a little bit more true. I think if you went with black, it might, I don't know. Actually, the more I think about it, it might kind of darken it and alter the colors more. And then another way to go is you can go with the nickel plated. Problem with nickel plated ones is you only get certain kits that come in this. But there's like a slightly darker one, and there's also one that looks like just like chrome. That's going to give you a lot of light bounce back. The whole thing's going to reflect. So there's different ways to kind of deal with, you know, slightly see-through or translucent type stuff. What the heck? Like I said, typically though, black is going to be a little darkening. The other thing, black is a good one if you've got like color shift type stuff or interference powders. I would go with black pretty much all the time on those, especially like the abalone blanks. My opal, because those are, you know, it's just interference powder, but it can also help even with color shift powders too. Yeah, I can't wait. I still need to figure out what's going on with Gretchen for the Phoenix trip. She's right in the middle of starting her team up, so it's just, spring is kind of, I don't know, there's like never a good time for her. Summer's terrible, and then spring is kind of tough because she's starting her team up again. We'll have to, once she gets back from New Orleans, we'll figure out what's going on with that. So I'm just using some silicon carbide. I gotta be honest, guys, I think this is better than Abranet. Again, the reasoning being that the silicon carbide paper has more grit particles per like square inch or whatever, and it just tends to go a little bit faster. The paper is a little bit more flexible, but you're gonna want to do it with water or some sort of a lubricant of some, you know, technically you could use something like oil or whatever, but you're gonna wanna use some sort of a lubricant with it. But I really think this is the way to go for resin. I really like Abranet, but it works quicker, and I'm getting better results. So if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. Don't go with cheap Harbor Freight or some other random paper. Go get like a Norton 3M, Mirka, Klingspor, you know, some sort of a brand name, and where they're known for sandpaper. It's going to make a difference. Spend the extra couple bucks, but give it a shot if you haven't tried silicon carbide paper. It works pretty good. I still like the Zona paper though. So like this is 600, but you know, that's one thing. Like I used to always start with 400 with Abranet, and I had to, but I can go with 600 on this stuff, and it's good to go. An easy one, I'm able to, as long as I do a really good job with the 600, I can technically go up to 1,000, and then just go, like if you do buffing wheels, then you can go to triple E. So 600,000 and then triple E and white diamond, or what, you know, whatever your buffing routine is. But I can get away with just doing that on just a resin blank. So some of that has to do with, you know, if you can get you want to be able to get, you don't want to have a lot of tool marks in your blank to start. It needs to be relatively smooth, but it doesn't have to be perfect either. The 600 really makes quick work of it. And always do that cross, do a little bit where it's turning, radial scratches, and then always switch, just to kind of fill in any little gaps you might have. So we're gonna try to just skip up to 1,000. I usually do 800 then 1,000. Let's see what we can do. If we're gonna go with magic juice on these. So let's just go up to 1,000, and let's see how this turns out. I don't know. Doing an experiment here. Am I caught up on the thing? Yeah, okay. 20 by 40 shop. I gotta be honest, what I really want, like if I had my dream shop, I think a 1,500 square foot shop with loft space is really what I would want. It just, and like I said, that's like perfect world scenario. Right now my shop area is about 800, and with all of the woodworking tools that I have, because I got a table saw, I got a full-on 8-inch joiner, planer, router table, Festool table thing, bandsaw, technically 2 bandsaws, a few sanders, a miter saw, a drum sander, like that. All the woodworking tools, which I don't use them much. That's one of the problems, but those take up a lot, and I don't really want to get rid of them, because someday I may want to build cabinets or do something, probably I'm not going to sell them, but if I had more time, I would probably do more just woodworking type stuff. But it'd be nice to be able to kind of really have a wood shop dedicated, because it's kind of, I got all my woodworking tools just jumbled together. And if I really needed to make something, especially something relatively large out of wood, I'd have to kind of reconfigure my shop to get to have the joiner work and planer and all that kind of stuff. So I think a 1,500 square foot shop would give me plenty of room to have like a wood shop and a resin / turning kind of area. I'd need some storage though. But my biggest problem is the way that we have, I'm lucky because I am in a bigger shop. My dad's shop is 4,000 square feet total. And then I take up 800. So I actually have some storage, like upstairs storage that I can use. And I got a lot of overflow, let's say, already. But what I don't have is outside. So what I really want to just have a house that has a 1,500 square foot shop in the backyard on site, so that I can have like sheds and things, like, because like wood storage and things like that, you don't really necessarily need, especially like raw lumber. I've got a lot of that. I don't need it inside. Just make a little, lean-to kind of shed. I'd also like to get into blacksmithing a little bit, but it's kind of a pain here. So I'm not doing it inside. And outside is not ideal here for me. But I could kind of get things set up and have a little bit of a forge outside if I had my own property. So someday. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I don't know. Let's give it a shot and go move on to the magic juice. So again, I'm kind of skipping. I usually go the green and then the gray and then the blue with Zona papers, and they work a little different. They're polishing papers, a little bit different than sandpaper. Still an abrasive, but it's a little bit different than your typical like silicon carbide or even aluminum oxide sandpaper. So we're just going to try and skip them and then move right on to the, let's see here, the magic juice. See what happens. If there's like scratches and stuff, we'll just have to see. Did I do the lengthwise with the 1,000 grit? I really want to do that, so I'm just gonna very lightly. You don't want to be pushing hard when you're doing this. Just give it a little bit of a, you're really not even pushing. You're just kind of barely letting your fingers kind of glide on there. Okay, let's see here. 10 by 12 shed. Oh, and your blacksmith. Oh, that's pretty small. You can do it though. I mean, you know, it's not, the one thing about smaller shops, because I started in a 2-car garage, so I was like 10 by 20, and I liked it because everything was like almost in arm's length. But to do different operations, you really got to reconfigure everything every time. So it's not fun, but depending on the size, the scale of things that you're doing, I mean, there's actually something to be said, I think, for smaller shops too. And if all I was really doing was turning and resin casting, if that's all that I ever really wanted to do, things would be different. I think I'd probably be a little bit more inclined to just being like, okay, I just need kind of a 2-car garage. You know, bandsaw, lathe, resin casting area, and I'd be pretty good. What am I doing here? Okay, kind of thing. Quit talking and move on with stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go get some of that blue paper, the blue paper towel stuff. It's a little bit softer than the Bounty paper towels, a little less abrasive. We're just gonna rip these into little thin strips here. Don't need a big application pad. This stuff. And Magic Juice is another one. So this is just a polishing, whatever, polishing compound. This stuff is pretty awesome. I think that most people can totally just get away with this and be done for polishing their pens. It's a 6-step process if you're not familiar with it. And I was very skeptical when it first came out because I've tried things like Yorkshire grit and all that, and it just doesn't really, what I would want in the way that people kind of talk about those types of things is that it's like it's going to be the finishing product, like it's a 1-step product or process, and it's not. Like, so I kind of went into those a little bit not understanding exactly what was going on with them. Maybe I'm going to do this one more time. Sometimes I just want to make sure that we've gotten that 1000 grit out. But so I don't know, I've always kind of had a negative outlook on some of the pastes. I think they work great if you're doing a hybrid type thing where it's resin and wood. It can bring a little bit of that life into wood. And still kind of polish up your resin, but you're still gonna have to buff it. And so I'm like, well, okay, I could just sand it and then buff it too. So, you know, it didn't change much. It almost kind of added steps to my process. So I was never a big fan of it. But then this stuff, I gave it a shot, and not only was it faster, but it actually worked better than my typical buffing process. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now, I still use the buffing wheels if I've got stubborn scratches, if I didn't do a very good job. I'll go take it, like the Triple E wheel can take care of like most problems that you might, you know, scratches that are just, you just can't seem to get them out. So I still like buffing too. And buffing, I think, is a better way to go. You're gonna need to buff bowls and things like that. You're probably gonna need buffing wheels. But for pens, Magic Juice is a pretty good product, I think. I mean, I've only done 2 steps, and I mean, frankly, I've seen people, and I've made pens that were less glossy than this, and that's just 2 steps. I could be done, you know, that's the so it's pretty cool. So the nice thing is Turner's Warehouse has a sample set. It's like $15 if you want to try this stuff. Give it a shot. I mean, this is one of those simple things, like to test out and see if buffing wheels work, that's expensive. $15, a few bottles of stuff, and actually it's quite a bit. This is the biggest one. These are 2-ounce bottles, I believe. Yeah, 2 ounces. They've got a 1-ounce bottle set, which is going to be like, I think they got the new tops, the new caps. This is a pretty old one. You can see the difference. And then there's the $15 one, and it's a, I don't know how many ounces, but I mean, honestly, these 1-ounce bottles will last forever. 2 ounces, I don't know if I'm going to run out of this stuff. So I think you're going to get many, many pens out of that $15 trial thing. And it'll let, you know, if you like it, it's an easy one to test out, see if it's, you know, compare it to what you're doing right now. That's what I did. And when I compared it, we did it live a couple, 3 years ago maybe. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, this thing's shinier. And it was easier because you don't have to like set up buffing wheels or do anything. Now I have a mini lathe set up for buffing, so it's not like I have like this turnover. But with this, I don't even have to take it off the lathe, you know. So it's pretty, I was like, okay, this stuff is legit. Like it works good. And it's pretty cheap. Now you are, you know, you're gonna have to buy more of it technically, probably compared to a buffing wheel, but I don't know, buffing setups are kind of expensive. It would take many years to make magic juice cost more than buffing wheels, I guess. Lucy's here. Oh, sorry, I wasn't watching. I was talking, paying attention to my things. So I will shoot Turner's Warehouse over there a text and say thanks for stopping by. All right, so we did step 4. We're on to step 5. Now, the one thing is, and I don't know what the answer to this is, but I think that these paper towel pads might be more abrasive than step possibly 5 and 6. I don't know what the actual grit level of a paper towel is, but they are a little bit abrasive. And I don't know. The best thing that I've found, you could use like a microfiber towel. You got to really watch out though, because those can be a little dangerous on a lathe. You'd have to really use a small pad. But those like face pads, and I'll pull them out. That's what I use for step 6. And they seem to work okay. They can rip apart. It depends on which one you get. But the ones that I got from Target, just their little basic cotton rounds, these things work pretty good. And they're definitely not going to be abrasive. And I don't know what the abrasion level of any of this stuff is, but I'll tell you right now, the scientific, not so scientific test that I did to conclude that the white Bounty paper towels are more abrasive than the blue ones is because when I get like a cold and I'm blowing my nose all day, I usually just use paper towels. And I'll tell you what, it just those Bounty ones just jack my face up. Whereas I can get by a lot better with those blue ones. Again, I'm not pressing hard or anything like that. Just gonna let this stuff kind of do its job. And I'm going to use a clean area to wipe it all off. All right, so let's get you guys in here. I'm going to have to probably disconnect the power, whatever, plug there. And I'll pull it off the lathe. I think I get better like angles to see the gloss, but man, get it focused here. Stop shaking. There we go. Look at that. Thing's pretty wicked. Now, you can kind of see like there's swirls kind of that seem to be dragged up, and that I think that's one of those things. That's kind of the difference between the hooked, using a hooked end stick, you know, when you're pouring these things compared to just a straight stick. You can kind of swirl it around, but you're really pulling it along the length of the blank, I think, a little bit more. So, you know, just a simple thing. Now you can see some of the white streaks in there. Definitely a lot going on in here. I think I'm a little bit, the interesting thing for me is there's not a lot of white in these blanks. Which I kind of figured there'd be a little bit more of that white. I didn't use a lot at all. I didn't use much at all. There's a little bit of white. So very subtle, but I'm not seeing through much of the blank either. Like I'm not seeing a bunch of black. Now I think there are areas, I think those might be totally transparent, and I think that is the black tube behind it right here is transparent, but the black is really looking good with these blanks. And again, it's just a painted tube. I didn't paint the inside of the blank, but there's definitely a lot of depth I can kind of see. So let's pull this thing off, and I'll try and get it kind of close up for you guys, and try and get you some even better views of what's kind of going on here. I don't know if that's any better or not. I think it might be a little bit too zoomed in. Let's zoom out a little bit. There we go. Kind of helps to spin it and just move it so you can kind of see the different layers almost. So it's a pretty good blank, I think. I don't know. It really, there's like a lot of chatoyance when you spin it also. I think that's another thing that you're going to get when you mix dyes with mica powders, is it seems to alter the way that the light kind of refracts or reflects off of the colors a little bit more. So, like I said, just something that mixing of the two, putting some of that dye in and doing like a dirty pour, quote unquote, can kind of give you a little bit of a different look than if you just use mica powders. It's a little bit more static just using micas. Not significantly different. I'm not going to say that, oh, you got to put dye in there. It's going to give you a little bit of a different look. All right, so we got the pen body finished up. Let's move on to the cap. Get this thing turned up and then assemble this pen. All right, so let me zoom you guys out. I'm going to move the camera real quick. Back to position 1. There, maybe zoomed in just a little bit. Somebody was saying they like seeing the shavings. Let's try a different angle. What was I doing? What was I doing? Somebody mentioned camera angle and how, oh, I guess just when I was turning. Let's drop the height of the camera real quick. See if we can't get the angle, kind of bring it down a little bit. See if we can't get some kind of shavings looking shots. Don't mind me, I'm okay. Oh, jeez. I'm smacking the camera into things. Oh man, okay, I'm all right. This is gonna take a minute. Part of the reason I don't do this is because the tripod is all kind of set up in a certain way. Makes it a little bit more difficult to get things changed around like that. I don't know. We'll just do this for a little bit. You let me know if this is cool or not. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in there. Kind of dark. Maybe not. Bring it out just a little bit there. Let's try that. You let me know if this is cool or silly. All right, so let me stop real quick and see what's going on in the chat also. Oh, 10 milliliters. Okay, well, whatever it is. It's good. Okay. Oh, thanks, Lucy. Yeah, and I didn't even have anything to do really with these colors. The chat came up with them all. I just kind of introduced the dye edition, part of it. But the chat picked all the colors. The pen is certified hot. Yeah, so if you guys do some of the messing around with, trying dyes with, and I think it's even a little bit more pronounced. So, we have 5 colors, 5 base colors in this. There's a purple, a red, kind of a green. The interesting thing is the beetle blue ends up turning out green, I think, typically. So it's not even almost blue really, but, and what was the other color? What's the other color in these things? Blurple. What did we do? Maybe there was a green also. We do a green? What did we do? Turquoise. There's a turquoise, red, purple. So that's a lot of colors going on. But if you go for just 2, maybe 3 colors, I think you're really going to see the difference. The other thing is if there's only 2 colors in there, that means that there's more of the resin, of that color of resin in the blank. It's going to multiply it by 2 or 2.5, whatever, compared to having 5 different colors. There's just less resin of each color. And so you can really get larger splotches of that transparent area. And also if you drop in a little bit of the white, you can really get a spectrum of different colors. I mean, you could honestly just do, 1 color and then do, let's just say you picked red. You could do red mica, you could do red dye, and then throw in a little bit of white, maybe, and you could even vary how you do all this stuff. You could maybe mix the white into the red dye cup kind of first, then drop that into the mica, or you could keep the mica and the dye cups totally separate and pour them as if they're 2 colors. And all of these different variations are going to give you different results, So it's kind of fun. There's lots of different things you can do with it. All right, so let's get on this here. There's a black dot. Yeah, that's my mark to line up the 2 blanks. It's just a Sharpie. I'm just gonna leave my gloves on. I don't find that this is dangerous. If anything happened, it would just rip the glove off, You definitely don't want to be wearing gloves that are like fabric or something though. All right, let's take a peek. Let's see what we got here. Can you guys see? Woo! That was in the comments of the YouTube short video of the demolding. Somebody pointed out that the blurple with the starlight glitter was on point, and I do think that glitter adds a lot to these blanks. Just a little bit of sparkle goes a long way, Can you guys see that? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. There's lots of colors in here. So that's the nice thing also, we did do 5 colors. And that alone can kind of mix up your, mix everything up a little bit more. With or without using a stir stick type thing at the end. bit of a bump right there, looks like. Alright, that's looking pretty good. We got pretty good tool marks, it feels like, right there. Kind of hard to feel it with the gloves on, but let's sand it a little bit. I can't tell exactly what's going on here. I'm gonna do a little bit of sanding. The nice thing is you can kind of see what's going on. If you just sand it a little bit, usually your tool marks kind of pop out at you. I think I'm gonna get a new piece of 600. I've been using that thing for a little while now, so let's grab a new one. You always want to, try and keep as much clean water going on as possible when you're sanding. A lot of people even used to use like a squirt bottle, put like a full-on bucket underneath, and then just use like kind of a squirt bottle of water, and that'll definitely kind of keep everything nice and clean. Keep that swarf out of the way. I'm gonna wipe it off, and I want to take a peek at this. It looks like there's like a dip at one point on this blank. So let me put on my eyeball helpers here. To tell. Looks like this right here, this area is a little bit, it's got like kind of a little bit of a bump. So let's spin it back up. Get all the other stuff out of here. I'm just going to take a little bit off. Okay, I think that's good. Once we sand it up. Speed back down, we can turn the... So let me know what you guys thought about the... Pull out the calipers. Yeah, no thanks. I only pull those out for... If I need to nail a certain thing on a kitless or bespoke pen. So what did you guys think about the angle? Was that all right? I don't use alcohol dyes. I mean, I have used them in resin, but the thing is, alcohol dyes tend to fade usually. I mean, almost all of them are gonna fade a little bit if enough UV radiation hits it, but a lot of the alcohol inks. So if you guys aren't familiar with Steve McDonald, he's got a pretty awesome channel, and he's done some experiments with alcohol inks in coasters, making coasters. He doesn't do like turning stuff. He does like the kind of craft jewelry, that kind of stuff. And he's done experiments where like the alcohol ink's kind of like gone in a year. So I don't really like it. There's not much dye in alcohol ink. It's mostly alcohol. So I'd rather use Alumilite dyes personally for most things. Now, that being said, there are times when you need something, because like Alumilite dyes are super concentrated. And you can make your own alcohol inks out of Alumilite dyes as well, just to mention that. But sometimes you know, to get a very distinct shade of like red or like purple's a tough one with Alumilite dyes because it's so dark that you're not going to get a very transparent purple. So in those cases, you might want to just go with an alcohol ink, but you got to find one that's pretty good. And like I said, Steve McDonald did some experiments, and I believe that his experiments found that I don't know. You'd have to go and check out his channel. I think this is the reason why I bought this. Let's Resin. I think that he found that those worked pretty good and didn't just fade. I mean, it literally, the coasters were disgusting. Like after like a year, even the ones that he put some like as like a kind of a control type group in like a paper bag and hid them for a year, and they still faded, and it was just like brown. Like it was gross. They didn't. So just be careful with alcohol inks. Make sure you're using a good brand. I would imagine that the other brand that I would probably say should be pretty good is what is it called? The Ranger ones. I'm guessing they're a little bit more color fast. But the other issue I have with alcohol inks is you're putting alcohol in your resin, and I don't know what effect that is going to necessarily have. It probably isn't going to do anything, but we're talking about pen blanks, and especially for me, I sell them. I don't want to put stuff in there that's going to alter the chemistry and cause things to be more brittle, possibly. At least if I don't have to, right? So I typically just kind of steer clear of them. It's not to say you can't, it's just I'm giving you my reasoning. And I haven't done extensive testing or anything like that. It's just, that's not an experiment that I necessarily really want to. There's no real advantage to alcohol inks for me in most cases. There's so little dye in them that I don't usually make blanks that look like that. So I'd rather just use what I know, which is the Alumilite dyes. There's really not a lot of benefit for me using them, so I just don't see the point. You know, it's not really worth the time to play around with that for me. So hopefully that answered your question. It was kind of a roundabout way. You like that angle of attack? Nice. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, you'll really want to shake it up. Like I said, honestly, it's like 90% alcohol and then a little bit of dye in there. And like I said, you can make your own alcohol inks using Alumilite dyes. Just you have to, it's very sparing, you know, how much dye. And that's one way to dilute them. Like I said, that purple, the violet Alumilite dye, it is so dark. Like I make hybrid stopper blanks for stainless bottle stoppers, and it's a nightmare trying to get the purple ones, because they like to have like just a very light dye with some sparkles in there, it's like it's just a nightmare to try and get. Here's kind of an example, like something like this where it's like super transparent, barely any color in there. Like trying to get that with Alumilite dye, I'm not joking, like a literal pinprick in a pretty decent sized bucket of resin is all you need to get that kind of thing. So you really have to dilute it with something. So that's a case where I'll use, you know, like, I got to be honest, like I'm to the point where some of these colors, yellow is fine with the Alumilite dye. Like, you can probably dump the whole bottle in there. It's never going to get, you know, super like dark or thick or, you know, whatever, opaque. So like your yellow, red, orange is generally pretty good. Trying to think if there's another one. Those three are fine, no problems. When you move to green, that's a tough one, and it's also kind of a bluish kind of green. Ocean blue is pretty good. That one's fairly transparent, but even with that, it's pretty easy to get too much in there. Their normal blue, totally dark. Like if you're going for very light colors, it's too much. Violet, way too much. So green, violet, and blue are just, they're going to be dark. And so with those ones, I'm thinking about just using alcohol inks, because you can get a very specific shade, and there's no way that you're going to put too much in there to the point where it's like opaque. And you know, they're hybrid blanks, so you want to be able to see, you know, the ridges like this. You want to be able to see in there. You just want a little color, but you need to be able to see that burl cap. So if it's too dark, you've ruined it, you know. So that's a case where, like, alcohol ink, fine. I got to go for a very transparent color that is difficult to get. Pink is another tough one, because with the red dye, it's hard to get the right amount to get a pink. The way to get pink is you add white. Well, that's not going to work. So that's another one where I haven't, there's no way to get pink, like a nice looking pink. So I've used alcohol ink for those stoppers since day one. So it's not that you can't use them, it's just I'd rather personally stay away, just so that I can ensure that the customer has the best experience possible, you know. Yeah, water. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I like to just stay away from things that are, again, I'm not saying that alcohol, you know, tons and tons of people use alcohol inks to make coasters in like crafty projects, all that kind of stuff. It's not going to harm it. I try to reduce any possibility. And I was saying this before, you know, in general, like, you don't usually have to be like exactly spot on. You know, with most resins, there's a little room for error when you're measuring the A and the B. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be like absolutely perfect to the nearest, you know, 100th gram to get to not have an issue. However, if you're really kind of just willy-nilly about your measuring on resin, and then you do have a problem with a batch or something like that, who's to say that the mixing or, you know, the measuring wasn't the culprit or had some influence on it? So, you know, trying to be as accurate or keep things out of resin that could cause issues is a good way to go. Now, we do the Dunkin' Junk experiments, and that's totally different. You know, we're tossing stuff in there to see what happens. But I generally, that type of blank, I'm not selling. Like, I don't keep inventory of that type of thing, and I'm not going to, you know, generally what I want is the people that are watching the like live stream, if we've done it on a live stream, I want people that have seen the video to purchase the blanks because they know what they're getting into. I don't really want some random person being like, oh, those look cool, and then it's like a nightmare to turn, you know. All right, so we got our 600 grit done. I talked a lot during the process. And then again, we're just going to move up to 1,000. See how that goes. I mean, obviously, I didn't get like the loop out, you know, like magnifying loop, but that looked pretty darn good. So I think you can most likely, again, you got to do a good job with the 600 before you can move up to 1,000, but I think you can do that pretty effectively. 800 is a good step in between. There's not going to be any harm, and you can probably move through a little quicker up to 1,000. You probably don't have to spend as much time on the 800 as you maybe would with 1,000 to get out 600 grit scratches. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do the 6, 8, and then I move on to the green and the gray with the Zona papers. So there's lots of different ways you can, combinations of abrasives you can use. But if you want a pretty not very many steps, I mean 600, 1,000, the silicon carbide, I think that you'll be good to go to move on to Magic Juice or buffing. Oh, wrist surgery. No fun. Knife handles. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another one. I mean, I think I would maybe stay clear of the alcohol inks. I would just be a little bit worried about, because knives are definitely going to see more UV radiation, I would think. I don't know, possibly than pens. So I think I'd rather go for something a little bit. Now, like I said, Alumilite, it's not that Alumilite dyes are never going to like fade or anything like that. I mean, it's not like a UV resistant dye as far as I know, but it's definitely more concentrated, and it's going to I haven't seen fading like I've seen in Steve McDonald's videos with the experiments with alcohol ink in any pen. And I've got pens that are, over 10 years old. A little bit of fade, a little bit of that yellowing is going to probably happen with any kind of resin you're using over time. But dye fading, I haven't really seen that with Alumilite dyes. Maybe if it was something that you made that was like literally outdoors 100% of the time, that might be an area where you'd see fading for sure. But I think for most knives and pens and things like that, I think you'd be good. This cap even has, I'd say, more like color mix going on in it. Okay, so we're done sanding. Just gonna wipe this guy off. We'll move on to our Magic Juice. I'm gonna go get a couple more pieces of this, the blue paper towel. Here we got 3. Actually, we're good. We got 5. Okay, step 1. David, first time, nice. Welcome to the stream. All right, so again, Magic Juice, polished. This is Stadium Pen Blanks, sells, it came up with it. Good product. Now there are other like plastic polishes. There's Novus. A lot of people love the Novus. That's like a 2-step type deal. And I've used that. I still think that Magic Juice, I don't know. I don't know if it's because there's a little bit more, you got 6 steps. So there's more like closer, like abrasive level. You get more steps of closer, grit abrasives going on. But Magic Juice is, I would say, probably the best, like a plastic polish that I've used. I don't know. It might even just have to do with the fact that number 1, the step 1 might actually just be a little bit lower. Abrasion, grit level or whatever. Is there a word for that? Lower grit, let's just say, than many of those other plastic polishes, because a lot of times you end up, they kind of want you to sand up to like, 2 to 4,000 grit, and it's like, well, good Lord. I mean, what grid are we going to here, you know? So this one, you know, obviously I'm stopping at 1,000, which is not particularly high, but it's able to plow through and be good to go. And again, this isn't like, we're not putting a friction polish. Now, the number 2, for some reason, step 2 of this stuff is like kind of sticky. It kind of tends to want to like stick and like grab the rag a little bit. So that one I end up having to kind of press a little bit harder with, but you really don't need to press hard. And I gotta ask Mike about this. At number 2, all the rest of them are like super smooth when you're using them. You don't have to use much pressure, but that number 2 always seems to be sticky. I'm in a pretty dry climate here too, so I don't know if that has something to do with it, but all the rest are nice and, you know, what you think, it's like smooth. Let's see, how shifter knob UV. Honestly, it hasn't, so I'm on the second one where we just used Alumilite clear slow. The first one was done with the Amazing Clearcast Plus, which has the UV inhibitors in it, and it didn't yellow. The one thing I will say is that shifter knob is really small though. There's a lot of wood in there, and it was actually kind of hard to see exactly what was going on with that one, but it didn't look like it changed in any way. It didn't yellow. However, the second test, I wanted to kind of see how does the Alumilite Clear Slow fare, because it really has no UV inhibitors in it, and it is dead clear still. Now, somebody brought up the windows in your vehicle, like window glass, probably even like house glass a lot of times, have UV blockers in them. So, because otherwise you'd get a sunburn driving down the road every day. I don't know if that has a little bit to do with it, but I mean, I have blanks that haven't left the shop that have yellowed in a year. So I don't know I don't know. Fluorescent lights do emit UV light, UV, radiation. So that's something. I don't know how that factors in exactly. Yeah, so there you have it. I really don't even know what to tell you. You can probably get away with not worrying as much unless there's, very specific situations where you might need the extra UV protection. Something that's definitely going to see a lot more sunlight. The Amazing Clearcast Plus is a good product. I don't like the thickness. It's super thick. It's like a bar top epoxy. And I'm not a huge fan of that. It's very thick viscosity, so mixing it sucks. It's not even worth it in the winter. But you can heat it up and that thins it out. I got a video on that if you want to search my channel. I got a really simple, easy way to warm up your resin that doesn't involve introducing pots of water in your shop, which I always hated that idea. So it's not that hard to get around it, but it's a good product. And to be honest, Amazing Clearcast Plus versus just the Amazing Clearcast, a lot of people just use that. And it's fine, but the problem is the ACC Plus actually is better for turning. It's got its cured properties, like specs, are a little bit better, not as brittle, I guess is really where I'm going with that, as the regular Amazing Clearcast. So that stuff is pretty hard and pretty brittle, actually, just the regular one. But the ACC Plus turns extremely well, noticeably better than just Amazing Clearcast regular. So I always use that for, well, in most cases, I'm going to use that for hybrids where it's like dead clear resin, and I'm merging it with burls that have some kind of, like sometimes those burl caps have like a little bit of smooth, that live edge is a little bit smooth. I pretty much always pull that out. You get a better bond with the wood than with urethane, with, you know, Alumilite Clear Slow is the urethane. And so I get a better bond with wood sometimes with that epoxy. And then if it's, a lot of times that, if it's gonna be like a live edge thing, it's gonna be dead clear. So I just opt for the ACC Plus, since it just has the extra UV inhibitors in it. But I also use deep pour for a lot of things as well. So, you know, it's up to you, but, you know, after that test, I don't know if the UV blockers in every instance are really that necessary. It's tough. So look at this thing. So now here's more of those greens, the beetle blue, which I think is funny because beetle blue ends up looking green. And then the bluish thing, that's the turquoise. And then we've got our blurple. But there's a little bit right in here. I think that's where some of that white is mixed in, because it's kind of like lighter purple, and we didn't have that in there anywhere. There are bands in here where there's some of that white. So it's kind of an interesting mix. There's different things. If you really look, you know, we didn't put certain colors that are in this blank in there, you know, really. There's a little bit of that white stripe. And where the white stripe is, there's going to be transparent resin, which there is some transparent red right there. But there's also some mica right next to that. So it's kind of, you know, this is exactly what I was talking about. You can kind of really get some interesting mixtures of things by adding, you know, that transparent resin, you know, just the transparent dyed resin can really add a lot to blanks. And again, I don't want to take credit for, I mean, it's not to say that I haven't put transparent resin in with, you know, in a pen blank before. It was just brought to my attention by Jonathan Brooks, where he was kind of talking about, and really his point was actually, he said that he likes to put it in with mica powders to give it a little bit more of that depth. So I'm going to say that he really kind of gave me that idea. I would put dye in like, so slightly different, where what we did here was we had a cup of resin, you know, clear resin, two different cups. In this one, we put mica powders, mixed it in. In this one, we just put dye, mixed it in. Then we poured the two together. So there's like bigger blobs, bigger areas of just transparent mixed in with mica, you know, kind of next to each other. It's not just all mixed together. Now, in the past, and this works well too, I think, and you get some interesting results. Put mica and some drops of dye in the same cup and mix it in. That's also going to give you a little bit different look than if you just had mica powder in there. So there's, like I said, lots of different subtleties and different ways that you can kind of add a little bit of flavor to your blanks. You know, and each one does slightly different stuff, I guess. But Jonathan Brooks really brought that home, and he's the one, actually, this is something that I never even thought about, particularly. I've mixed, if you, okay, so with Alumilites, you know, Alumilite dyes are transparent, right? If you want to make your own custom colors that are opaque, and I've known this forever, you put white dye in, you mix it together, all in the same cup, mix it fully up, and you're going to get a solid color red, because this is opaque, totally opaque, the white dye. And if you add some red, that's going to, you know, shade the color. It's going to make it colored, right? So it's going to be an opaque colored resin. But what he does is he takes like a cup of you know, resin, puts some of the red dye in, mixes that in, and then just has maybe either a separate cup of white or just adds a little bit into that cup and kind of swirls it, and you get like really interesting, like opaque parts, transparent parts, but then also the white is going to change the shade, the color of red. So you get like different colors, different tones of that one, and all you used was red dye, you know, but plus white dye. But So we did a lot of different stuff, and you get like a little bit of different variations going on when you do that. When you're mixing in the opaque resin, the white dye, transparent dyed resin, plus micas. A lot of really cool colors, and we get a lot of good shimmer because of that. There's some of those white spirals. There's like certain areas that are transparent. You really look hard. But they're small. They're not like huge blobs of it. And then part of that has to do with the fact that we had so many different colors in these. You know, five colors going on is a little bit, you know, it's not ridiculous, but it's more than 2 colors. If you only had 2, you would have larger areas. If you did it exactly the same way, you'd have larger areas where there's like transparent parts. So I hope everybody kind of tries some of this stuff out with, you know, playing around with some of the dyes, mixing things with, you know, micas, trying the white plus transparent. It's a really cool way to get some cool blanks. I mean, here's an example. I was just kind of playing around. Jonathan Brooks has mastered this kind of mixing the transparent with the white. But it's pretty cool. I think there's only 2 colors. I think it's yellow and red is what I use for like the dyes. But there's like orange. There's like all kinds of different shades of red. You got areas that are totally transparent in here. You got some white parts, but then you also have opaque, you know, red, orange, yellow. It's kind of crazy. I mean, you can, you know, depending on like the technique of how you're pouring these things, and, you know, if you pour, you know, I think in that case I had 3 different cups. One was white, you know, I mixed white in with the resin. One was yellow, and then one was red. And I poured them, you know, like as 3 separate colors. But if you did like the dirty pour type thing, that would give you slightly different results, where, you know, you pour in the white before you're actually, you know, pouring your blanks. You'd pour the white dyed resin into the red and yellow cups separate, so when you're actually pouring the blanks, there's really only 2 cups. So it's lots of different ways to try things out and have fun with it, you know. Okay, so we got to get set up over here with our don't have sufficient disk space to keep recording. That's fine. We got to get set up over here with our thingy. Get my pen press over here. So I've been pretty happy with this one. I forget what brand it is, but it's like the thing that also helps with taking pens apart, and it's a pretty good system. But I've seen I think the best pen press, if you're looking for one, it's probably the Miles Craft. I don't have one of those, but I've seen like Chad use it. Seems like a pretty decent setup, but this one's pretty good, and it also has some pretty cool ways to disassemble pens that make things like for really difficult ones. So usually I just use a punch and kind of hammer it out. But sometimes you just can't get them out. You need a little bit extra oomph, and that thing will kind of help out. And it also won't just, you know, eventually you're just going to wreck the components if you're just pounding the heck out of it with a hammer. So Miles Craft's a good one. I really like vertical pressing. So if you can find you know, you can get one of those arbor presses at Harbor Freight. That's a pretty good way to do things, I think. There's also on the lathe. Have you guys seen those where there's like, you put little stops? I actually have some really cheap ones. They're okay. They're plastic, but there's like slightly better ones. Let's see, do I have them? If you don't really have space, I actually bought these. I was doing a demo at the Portland AAW. That's why I bought these, because I wasn't going to bring a pen press. These just pop into the tailstock and headstock, and it even has a little thing for the nib to kind of rest in and center. So these are pretty good if you don't want to have to do anything else. It's a little bit harder. You really got to kind of hold the thing you know. That's why these like pen presses are nice, because they kind of hold everything in place for you. But I really like vertical, because then you have gravity working in your favor. So you could even use your drill press. It's not totally like, the quill isn't really meant necessarily to do it that way, but as long as you're not having to like, you know, really crank down on your pen parts, you could use your drill press and do it that way too. Kind of like the Arbor Press idea from Harbor Freight. Those things are pretty cheap and they're pretty useful too. Whatever way, another pretty easy one is if you have a vise, like a woodworking bench or you know, whatever, like a vise, you can use that to press parts. Okay, so let's get everything lined up here. Do I have a discount code? Yeah, Zach10 actually. Zach10. That's my discount. That'll get you 10% off. Unfortunately, I don't have any better codes. I kind of wish that they would give me a, like more off. That would be great. And that one actually might only be like a one-time use kind of thing, like your first time. So I should maybe talk to them and see like, hey, give me a better discount code, guys. Now, I have a couple marks. I'm going to put this, yeah, like really, this is how it would go. And like, frankly, like that's not really, I don't think that matters. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of line it up like this to get this red and purple area, because the rest of this is just a bunch of swirls that don't really line up with anything. So we've kind of figured that out. Like I said, I like to put a mark on the inside of my blanks. Is it showing up with a Sharpie? So, you know, on the blank, I had marked it before I cut it, but then I wrap over that Sharpie line. A lot of times it's kind of hard to get it like dead perfect, but you know, usually you can kind of get it close and then, you know, see how is this actually supposed to line up? What parts of this need to kind of go together? But in this case, it's just not really, I don't know. I don't think I care about those marks. I'm going to line it up however I want to make sure that everything's good to go. All right, so we got this thing goes on this side. Like I said, I'm gonna line everything up by eye. When we get there. Okay. Let me go get some wax real quick. Super pro tip. I cannot stand the sound of the when you take the screw, you know, like the nib and all those parts off, the metal screws. They always sound absolutely horrible. So grab yourself just a little bit of paste wax. I mean, heck, I've used candles in the past, even like whatever. Just grab something and just put a little bit of wax on these threads, because especially if you're selling it, oh, there's nothing worse than hearing those threads squealing at you. So I'm just using a little bit of this Renaissance wax. This stuff's really good. You don't need good wax or anything like that, but just give it a little bit of that. And then work the threads just a little bit, and they'll be nice, smooth, and won't make whiny noises. A lot of times I'm going to use a little bit, I'm going to use a little Q-tip thing. Just because I don't really want to get the wax on my fingers while I'm handling the pen. Got the perfect little brush. Oh, there we go. Finally got it open. Couldn't get the thing open though. So I just have this little brush thing. I'm just gonna kind of put that on there. And it's gonna go from squealing to sounding amazing. No squeals. I'm not getting any. Okay. All right, now I'm going to put this together. And here's our mark. Okay. I think we want it like that. Again, I'm just going to eyeball this. I really don't know that it matters. Let me take this thing off. I want to look at this in a couple different, and I don't even actually have to put this thing on the right way technically. If it for some reason looks better, a different, using the opposite end, because they're both the same size. So glossy, it's hard to see. I think I like that. I think that's how we're going to do it. I don't know. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to line up. I don't know if you guys can see. Let me zoom in. So there's like a little bit of a stripe of red and white running down like right here. I'm going to line those guys up because I think that looks the best. And that might actually be how it's supposed to be. I don't know. Doesn't really matter to me that much, but that's why, like, a lot of times with just color swirl type blanks, like, whatever. So there's a little bit of a stripe there and there. I'm going to do it like that, and I think we're good to go. See if I did it good. It's a triple lead. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Like I said, again, like whatever. All the colors just kind of swirl together. So I think no matter which way I've decided to put that, I think it'd be fine. Now let's see what we're looking like here. There's no blemishes or anything that I can see that I would really want to cover up with the clip. That's a good way to go sometimes. I don't know. Again, I don't think it really matters how this works. I think I'm going to go right there. Making the call, guys. I'm just making the call. Just it looked like a good place to put it. So let's see if I can get you guys. Problem is it's so reflecty. Get on camera. Trying to get it to the point where it's not reflecting right back at you guys. Problem is it kind of just gets dark. Let's put it the right way. That's pretty cool looking. I like these. These blanks. What do you guys think about the Junior Retro? I kind of like that. It's got a little hat. He's got a little hat on him. And there's a little bit of an angle on the center band part. It kind of dips out a little bit to kind of match the angle on the finial. But it's kind of one of my, I don't know. I found it a while ago, the Junior Retro. pretty sure Turner's Warehouse has it. I forgot to go grab a link. Let's see if they have it in stock. 'Cause I'm pretty sure that's where I got this one. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. They might be out of them. But you should be able to find this kit somewhere. Yeah, I'm not seeing the retro at Turner's. They used to have them though, I know that. But it's not a bad kit. It's interesting. It's got unique characteristics, and I think I don't know that I'd want this on every single pen, but I find a lot of times for just like kind of funky pens, it's usually a good way to go. It adds a little extra interest, but it's not like the kit is overwhelming. It just adds a couple different little angles and that little black dot on the top. It's kind of cool. So pretty neat. All right. Cooper, all right, buddy, it's all yours, man. Nice. I appreciate the super chat too. Yeah, well, so one thing that you can do to try to keep as much, if you're using a table saw to cut your blanks, I mean, you're losing an 1/8 inch. If you go with a pretty thin blade, smaller blade on a bandsaw, it's not that bad. If it's super, super ridiculously important to you to keep as much material as possible, you can get these little hobby saws. It's made by Gyros. This thing's pretty beat up. I actually use this to cut things on 3D prints at this point. There's rust. I don't keep it tuned up or anything, but you can get these, and it's a pretty thin kerf. So there are ways to mitigate that a little bit. You're definitely going to have a problem if you're using a table saw. Even with a thin kerf blade, that's still 3/32, and you're just hosed. You're never going to line that up. Like, you're going to lose so much material that it would have to be very big patterns, and even still, it's going to not match up properly. But I used my bandsaw on this one, so it was pretty close. But here's the other issue with that. Mike's totally correct on, you're losing some part of that kerf. The other issue is this one, where they meet, it's different diameter, which, a lot of times your blanks can have multiple kind of layers. Like if I take, 2 more cuts, these swirls might look totally different. And so, it's a lot of times it's really hard to get. Let me just put it this way. I don't think that in most cases it's really worth worrying about that much. Try to do your best to get things lined up. If make it look good, but don't fret over it, because it's just, there's nothing. You're never going to get it perfect, just because there's literally material missing or different diameters of material, even if it's the same blank. Let's see here. Ida, welcome to the stream. Oh, is Barb here too? Barb's here. You made it just in time to see this thing. This is pretty cool. So again, the big thing that I want to point out, beetle blue. That's what the green is. Let me get on camera somehow. Let me get my fingers out of the way. All of the green is the beetle blue. So I want to point that out to you guys. Now, we did add some ocean blue dye to that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think we added ocean blue. So I don't know, but it definitely turns out a little bit on the green side, because this is the turquoise that we use turquoise as well. Let me get my fingers out of the way. So just want to point that out. If you're going to use the beetle blue, it's a great color, but it's not blue. Really, it's kind of a weird one. So, Craft Supply USA, yeah, they got it probably. Thanks, Lucy. I appreciate it. Yeah, so pretty cool. So we have these guys in stock now. Again, if you want to wait for the discount code, go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. And I don't spam. I do, one a week. If there's a blank drop or a sale, I'm going to talk about that, and then I just also recap and say, here's what we did on the live stream. So nothing too crazy in the email newsletter. I don't like I like discounts if you're going to send me an email, and I like an update if you want to know. And in the past, I've thought about doing 2 separate email lists, where one of them is just like the content, one of them is like for just like products on my website, discounts and things that are going on. But whatever. And then you're getting 2 of them if you want both. So I just put it all in there. There's just a quick, description of what the live stream replay, or what the previous live stream was. But then I also talk about discounts. So you can just go to the website, and if you just scroll down, I like I said, I didn't think about it. Pretty much on any page, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, there's like down in the right hand corner, or I think on mobile it's probably just going to be like the last thing. There's a newsletter sign up, and there's also, if you just buy blanks, there's a place to sign up, but obviously that's not going to work for you to get the discount. You're not going to get the discount before you check out, so just sign up first and then you'll be good to go. But in the email newsletter goes out on Wednesdays around 11 a.m. So here's a link to those. They're also linked down in the description of the video. There's about, like I said, if you want to wait for the discount, sign up for the email and then wait till Wednesday. We should have about, and if you're a subscription box person, then you've already got one of these. But there should be about 14 right now. Let's see here. I got 7, 14, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so there's technically 15 available. I decided to make some more. I kind of figured, I don't know. I took a chance. I figured these might be a little bit popular, so I made a couple extra batches of them. So there's about 14, 15 up for grabs. And so, like I said, but for you guys, just wait for the email newsletter, unless you just want to make sure that you get one right away. But I'm pretty stoked about this pen. What do you guys like? Any other comments about the blank or the kit or anything like that? Let me know. One other quick thing before we go, for anybody that was kind of following along with the 3D print alcohol filter system thing. So I wanted to hook up the hoses kind of permanently to my buckets with these fittings. The problem is, then I realized, so what I was going to do was use I'm going to go get the camera and show you guys the setup. For anybody that doesn't know. So this is for 3D printing, resin 3D printing stuff. One of the biggest problems is you have to clean the excess resin off the prints after they've printed if you're using a resin 3D printer. And it's it's not fun. I'm going to just be completely honest. It's smelly, messy, goopy. So they make these little wash and cure station things, these wash buckets, and it spins and it does that. It works pretty good. I don't know that it's entirely necessary, but you can kind of just take your build plate off, drop it in. There's like a basket thing. And depending on which 3D printer, like if you have like an Anycubic brand, I think they got their own wash and print thing where you can just basically take your build plate off, drop it in there, walk away, turn on it's got a timer, and it'll clean it, for however long you set it. I have Elegoo printers, so I just bought the Elegoo one. But anyway, so I realized if you keep the basket thing in there, which is what makes this the most useful, I think, to just be able to just drop your build plate on it and then walk away. There's no room to put fittings hanging out in there. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I still might buy like a similar sized kind of bucket and hook this up just to kind of see how this works since I got the parts. But I'm still just pulling the hoses in from my filter system and just doing it kind of manually. So I just wanted to mention that. It didn't even occur to me that there's kind of a big basket thing in the way on that. But the filter system's working pretty good. I just gave it a torture test, actually. I've been washing black resin prints for like a good week. And I probably ran 10, at least 10 batches of 3D prints through it. So, I mean, the water was like black, and I ran it through the filter, and in about 10 minutes, it was dead clear. So it's working pretty good. So just to kind of let you know about that, to give you a little update. So nice, David. Signed up. Sweet. Sid, you don't know how to get one, but I want one. Yeah, so they're on my website. You can either follow the link in the chat window right there. But like I said, if you're on the email newsletter, wait till Wednesday. I know that it messes things up. I should maybe do the newsletter on Sundays or Saturdays, maybe even. I don't know. Wednesday's just been the day that I've been doing it. I might switch that. But if you wait till Wednesday when the newsletter comes out, there'll be a discount code for email newsletter subscribers. So whichever way, if you want to make sure that you get one, then go and buy one right now. But you can also wait and get 15% off if you sign up for the newsletter thing. So either way. Yeah, so that link, or like I said, you can just go to my website, and if you go under, just click on limited editions, and it'll be like, it's called the 11 color pen blank. Oh, and I also, one other thing, I don't have it here, but I also have one of those Happy Fun cups in stock. That's under the limited editions as well. I'm just going to link to that page that shows you all the limited edition ones. Those are ones that I only have so many of. Hey, Michael, no problem, man. That's why we got the replays. It's hard for everybody to make, especially longer format videos. So I always keep the replays up. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining the fun today. This is a really fun one to make. I don't know if you noticed, but the standard cutter today, like I said, I really think that you can get through, especially the kit style pens. I think you can cut faster with the standard cutter. It's just, if you mess up a little bit, if you get a catch, it's going to be a little bit more destructive, very destructive compared to a negative rake cutter. But either way you go, they both work great, but there are some differences between a standard cutter and a negative rake when you're turning. So anyway, just wanted to kind of mention that. Had fun doing this. So we got, this pen has been already claimed by Kid Cooper. So that'll be going out to you. I'll get that invoice a little bit faster than the last one. I had to do some extra stuff to that last one to get, it wasn't as sanded, as good as I wanted. So I had to kind of do some stuff and then tune the nib and all that. But this one will be ready to go. And like I said, there's about 15 blanks that will be available if you want to get the discount. Wait till Wednesday and sign up for the newsletter, the email newsletter on my website, or just head to my website if you want to just claim yours right now. They're ready to go. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day. If you got weather, if you got winds and all the other weather that's going on, hopefully you guys are staying warm, staying safe, and it's not going to be too crazy with the weather conditions where you're at. I know there's a lot going on, at least throughout kind of the U.S., but hopefully wherever you're at, you're safe and warm. So anyway, guys, we'll be back in action next week, Saturday at noon, ready to rock. And then the one last little thing, again, Turner's Warehouse is having an open house. They're down in Phoenix. So if you want to go and check that out, there's going to be some awesome demos. I'm going to do a demo. That'll be Saturday the 23rd. I'm doing a demo. Curtis Seebeck is going to be there. There's at least 2 other people, I think, doing demos. I can't remember exactly. They probably have a full list. Cocoon Blanks. I think he's doing segmenting, possibly. I don't know. There's lots of cool stuff. It's all free. So they got the open house. I'm sure there's going to be some pretty awesome sales. And then if you want to do a one-on-one class with me, resin casting focused, that's going to be on Sunday the 24th. And you can get a hold of Amy over at Turner's Warehouse. Just shoot her an email, amy@turnerswarehouse.com, if you want to grab those. There's probably 2 spots available, I think. Something like that. So lots of fun at the end of the month. I just wanted to give you guys that last one more reminder about that. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day.